Okay. Kia ora, talofa lava, and welcome to another episode of the Counter Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Counter Ruck, Stacy, and today we welcome a knowledgeable panel of rugby front rowers. That's where the brains trust of rugby is these days. So let me start by quickly introducing everyone. So firstly, we have our Counties Manukau supporter and a Waitemata rugby stalwart, Rog. Rog, thanks for coming on, brother.
Bulavanaka.
Nice. You have a different jersey every week, brother. That's what I like to see. Secondly, we have from the City of the Future and the host of the Pitch podcast on the WESWES network, as well as being a Ponsonby rugby legend, Joey. Joey, thanks for coming on, us.
Thank you for having me, and the capital city of the future. We've upgraded.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I might be down to a little when we talk about the Mitre 10 Cup semi-finals, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. But boys, a lot happened in the world of rugby since our last podcast, so I wanted to look at a few things. So firstly, the ABs, the All Blacks, are back in action this week, and they're looking to get some revenge against Argentina. So we'll preview that game. We'll look at the All Blacks captain, Sam Cane. He came out with some quite interesting comments in regards to the All Black fans. So we'll look at that as well. But I wanted to start by looking at the Mitre 10 Cup competition. So we had the 4 semi-finals over the weekend, and we now know who's going to be playing in the final, and what's shaping to be a pretty action-packed weekend with the All Blacks as well. So we'll look at the championship semi-finals, and we'll start there with an upset of sorts, I suppose, or an upset for our multi, I'll say at least, with Northland beating Otago away, 32 points to 19. So, Rog, mate, I'll come to you first, brother. I'm not sure if you caught much of the game or any of the game, but what were your thoughts on that first semi-final?
Yeah, you called me out. I didn't see anything. I just saw the. I guess it was home ground advantage for Otago being a Forsyth, but I was quietly happy because I know Joey was sort of picking Taniwha to upset and make something of this season, and has done really well to, especially on home soil for Otago, and to get the win. And it was the score. I didn't see the game, but the scoreline suggests that it was a convincing win. It wasn't by any fluke, but I'm not sure how the game progressed, fortunately, so I didn't watch the game. I only watched the Argentinian and Australian game.
Oh, well, you chose the wrong game because that was the most boring game on the weekend. But, Joey, did you make anything? Oh, yes, we'll get to that because I know that for the purists like yourself, that's a game worth investigating. But, Joey, mate, did you make anything of that first semi-final?
Between Northland and Otago?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It was just nice to see Northland bounce back from the previous hiding they received at the hands of Hawke's Bay. So for them to do one on Forsyth Bar grounds against Otago, the home team, was quite nice. I did see in an article it was described as a bit of a down trout. A lot of you snooker players will know what that is. So yeah, it was nice to see Northland get up and avoid their typical cellar dweller standing this part of the season.
Yeah, good on the Taniwha. I thought it was a good win as well. I only caught some of the highlights, similar to you boys, but I thought, for some of their veteran guys who've been there, guys like Rene Ranger and all the rest of it, to get this far, I'm not sure how well Northland have played over the last sort of 10 years. So it was good for some of their stalwarts of the campaign. And you brought up that game against Hawke's Bay, so we're going to probably talk about that game next, because Hawke's Bay, if they beat them quite comfortably before, and I thought they might have been the best team that they played on the weekend, Hawke's Bay. So we haven't got much to add on that Northland game, but good on them for getting in the final. But we'll look at Hawke's Bay, just their final opponents. So in the championship, they basically dismantled Taranaki. 59-23. So, Joey, mate, I'll come to you again, mate. Did you catch much of that one? And how did you see anything in the Hawke's Bay? Because they probably look the team.
I did catch the highlights, and of what I saw, the standouts were Ash Dixon. I think he scored 1 or 2 tries. The halfback for Hawke's Bay, what a standout! I mean, not only is his hairstyle going to help him stand out, but the way he plays, he reminds me of. It kind of reminds me of maybe Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith with a bit more grunt. So he's one to watch out for, that Hawke's Bay halfback. He's got a surname that's that's the one.
Yeah, so he got around McLean Park quite a bit, finding runners, good passing game, and he seems to be good at veering up his passes. And
he's been
around for a bit, a few campaigns.
He's got a few tricks up his sleeve too, especially with the chip and chase for the outside backs. He's in the heat of the moment. He can really come up with some trick shots there.
Yeah. Yes, he's 20 years old, but this is his 3rd campaign already. So was basically a high school superstar. He was always earmarked for big things. So with that haircut, if you want to have hair like that, you better play good, because otherwise people are going to tease the crap out of you. But he's with the Highlanders as well, and he's been sort of stuck behind Aaron Smith. So the Mitre 10 Cup is a good opportunity for players like him to really start to show their wares, because he's getting a lot of regular game time. But I'm with you. He was a guy that I had earmarked. He was one of the best players on show. Yeah, and Ash Dixon, he got a hat trick. He's been a servant of them for many years. So again, so for some of these guys who don't get to play in the All Blacks and all the rest of it, this is some of the highlights of their careers, playing for their province, and these stalwarts who really get to shine. So one thing I'll say about Hawke's Bay is, because they had the Shield for the last sort of 5-6 weeks, and that's really put some steel into their game. They don't want to lose the Shield, so they have to play good every week. And I thought that really came through in the semi-final, just having that sort of almost big game experience, because they have to be good every week with the Shield. So yeah, I thought that was something that really helped them. And also, they were one of the teams, or they were the only team this weekend who had a free game. So I thought that they got some good crowd support there, who really got them behind their team, and that just put some extra sort of wind in the sails, I suppose.
I'm thinking Ash Dixon's got 100.
But yeah, I thought, like I said at the start, I thought they were the best team on show.
100 what?
100 games.
He'll be close, because he's not with the All Blacks or anything like that. So, him playing at this level.
Maybe.
So I think coming into the season, he was sitting on 96. So he could be over now. And he had
he's got it comfortably. Yeah.
He had 16 tries. So with that 3, if he hasn't scored any other tries in the last few weeks, then he'll be up to 19.
Mate, it's unfortunate, eh? It's unfortunate the position he's in. Like, I would have him in the All Blacks right now, but obviously they've got their hookers.
I don't think he did himself any favours in the North-South games.
Yeah, true.
That's probably where, but then they always earmark Asafu Almoa as number 3.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And so I think he's in there thereabouts, but he could get a shot. I was really happy that he got included in that North-South game. There's that Māori All Blacks game touted for against Moana Pacifica at the beginning of December. So who knows whether he'll feature in that. Or old boy Joe Royal or possibly sort there.
Mate, they haven't even named that team, have they?
No, it's pretty
but they're already advertising the game, like fully advertising it. They haven't even named the team.
The likes of Joe Royal, debutant for Auckland last weekend at 25. I think he was missing from the squad last year, so whether he makes a comeback, but Ash Dixon's probably front runner there.
Yeah, and good on him for hanging around in New Zealand, because guys like him who obviously have these elite players who have all black aspirations, and when it's sort of the writing's on the wall that it's not going to work out, that's when they normally take the big offers and take the overseas money. But to his credit, he stayed in New Zealand and kept on playing his trade at the Mitre 10 Cup level and at Super Rugby here and there for obviously less money. He would have been paid double that if he went to Japan or some parts of Europe. So good on them. We need those types of players to stay and teach all these young guys, these young halfbacks that's coming through that we've talked about, teach them what New Zealand rugby is about and teach them about professionalism. So having guys like Ash Dixon stay the course, that really helps New Zealand rugby in the long term.
And even for them, even when they do go away, they come back, like the Liam Messims have done so. Nihimo Skara, obviously, is back as well from Manawatu. But yeah, so Ash Dixon could easily go away, but then, you never know. He's only 31, 32, so he could always make a comeback. If Liam Messim come back at 37, 38, then we've seen in the past Dwayne Sweeney and Marty Holla make a reappearance out of the blue.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you get the advances in sports science these days. 32 years now, Ash Dixon. That would have been, buddy, the end of your career sort of 10, 15 years ago. But now that's, you can still, if you look after your body and you do the right things, you can play on for another 3, 4, 5 years after that even. So yeah, definitely. But good on Hawke's Bay. Yeah, like I said, that was the best team I saw this weekend. But boys, if we haven't got anything more on that, we'll look at these premiership semi-finals. So the first one was Auckland. They beat Waikato at Eden Park 23-18. So they've booked a home final on the back of that win. So Joey, mate, I know you picked Auckland to win the NPC. So I'll come to you first, brother. How did you see that one?
It was predictable. I thought. I mean, the score was 23-18, but I did see Auckland being a little bit too much on their home ground against the old foe from over the Bombays. A strong Waikato side who had a lot to prove, and they wanted to put their all into it. Obviously, for the old heads like Liam Messam and Adam Thompson, one of our favourite fans that we like listening to our podcast. Wasn't it nice to see him dot down? Like, it was nice, really nice to see him dot down on the weekend.
That was a good try he got, yeah.
Yeah, he seemed pretty happy about it as well. Mr. Tomo. Yeah, he was definitely savouring the moment. But it was a good game. Started off by the try to Samsoni Taukeaho. In the first, I think it was the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, and then a couple of penalty goals, and then Tomo's try, and then an exciting try from one of the exciting wingers of the season, Salesi Rayasi, who's one to watch out for in the final against Tasman, who have their own garden on the wing. So that'll be a nice matchup. But in terms of this game, Auckland versus Waikato, I think the most consistent side of the season won in the end. Waikato, unfortunately, too little, too late.
Yep. The Waikato, they were top of the table sort of not that long ago, maybe a month ago. Then they got hammered from Auckland, and the wheels sort of started to fall off. So they fell away at the wrong time of the season, Rog. But I'll come to you, mate, and I'll give you a special shout, Rog, because when we did our preview, you mentioned your man Adrian Choate.
Yes,
as a guy to watch out for, and he was bloody awesome. He was bloody awesome on that game. So I'll let you take over, mate. What did you make of that game and your mate?
Well, it's just from what I've seen at club level and just the toiler that he is, but then an awesome open side flanker as well. And I'm not sure, was he captain of the team this week? Or because I know he has been captain throughout the season. But he was effective at the breakdown.
That's a good question. I was shocked that he got the captaincy that early because he's quite a young guy, but
he's only early 20s, he's probably 22, 23 at the most. he was playing in Bristol on the off season here, and so he's just come back and then slotted back into after his quarantine and everything. So especially with everything being put on hold and in Europe at the time, he's come back to play for Auckland. I'm hoping that he gets a super contract. Otherwise, he's going to be heading overseas again. But he's just one of those guys who's come around. Christie down at the Hurricanes, Tom Christie. So when he was in the 20s. Choate was reserved to Tom Christie, and obviously Tom Christie's just come into the fore for the Crusaders of late this year as well. And so I think it's hopefully, but then Auckland and the Blues have got some good sevens in the wings there, and he obviously got Nico Jones, who's probably biting at the bit to get a super contract as well. So good competition, and so unfortunately, just Adrian Choate's just been in with Blake Gibson around at the time. They've just signed Matt Dillon. So Dillon Hunt. So who knows? Who knows whether he'll be able to squeeze in for a contract? He's a decent number 7, but if the Blues don't pick him up, it'll be someone else's game around the country if they were to pick him up. Who knows? Moana Pacifica in 2022.
Oh, nice. I'm not sure how they fit him in with the Blues there, Adrian Choate. But yeah, you're right. He'll be a good pickup. Maybe your team, the Chiefs, could use some loose forwards. But even young Nico Jones, I'm not sure how they fit him in there as well because too much guns there.
Yeah, because I've already signed a few guys. Like. Dylan Hunt, like I mentioned, so Highlanders might be looking for another 7 or another loose forward. But Adrian Choate he's a hard worker, he's awesome trainer, and I think he'll be an awesome game for anybody that pick him up. But obviously, then if he doesn't, then he'll be back overseas.
Let's just hope Choate doesn't choke.
Sorry?
Let's just hope Choate doesn't choke.
He won't. Okay, yep. Boys, good thoughts there. One thing I will say is they've got this young fullback there at Auckland, Zan Sullivan, who I quite like the look of. He could be someone to watch out for, especially with Bowden Barrett's going overseas. So it looks like they might use Otere Black at 10 for the Blues, and I think they could have an opening in the 15 jersey there. And Zan Sullivan, to me, he looks like he could be a player who could potentially take that jersey. So he's one to watch out for
as well.
And that's one of the beauty of these NPCs. All right, boys. We've got a bit of a lag there, so that's interfering with things. But I'll look at the Aucklander will be playing in the next. They'll be playing Tasman because Tasman beat Bay of Plenty in the other semi-final, 19 points to 10. So, Roger, mate, did you catch any of that last semi-final? We'll just do a last preview on this one.
Oh, which game was that, sorry? Which game was it?
Tasman.
No,
that was Tasman Bay of Plenty. So 19-10 to Tasman, that was?
No, I didn't.
Well, thanks for the insight there, Roger.
Yes. Barbarians, Blackburns?
I did catch some of that Tasman game myself.
Yeah, go Joey.
It was quite a weird one, actually. It started off with not even a hiss and a roar. It started off with a couple of penalties. I think Mitch Hunt kicked a penalty goal in the first 3 minutes. So, a game's going to either go one or two ways, boring or exciting. If it starts off with a penalty goal, it's going to be stock standard percentages, kick for territory, hold the possession kind of game. Then the tries did start to pour on with Quinton McDonald is his name, and Lester Whanganuku, who's the other exciting talent that I'm waiting to watch come up against Rayasi in the final. That's going to be a really good one. Before the halftime break, there was a bit of there was a bit of controversy where a yellow card was given to Sione Harveli, who gave away a penalty in a crucial moment. And then that was, so Bay of Plenty actually capitalised on that with their own try to the 7-star Joe Weber, who is now trying to make himself a name in 15s, I'm thinking. Ortere Black got them underway again. He is someone who I feel has kind of dropped the standards from Super Rugby to NPC level, and you can kind of tell he's brought his standards down to the players of that level. And that, not that he was ever a flashy player, but I felt that his counterpart kind of outplayed him in certain parts of the game.
Yeah.
And speaking of his counterpart, Mitch Hunt, he kicked another penalty towards the end of the game, and then Tasman just did what you do and, closed the game out with probably the last 7 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I thought I'm with you, Whainganuku. He looks good. So he was a bit part player there with the Crusaders, but he looks pretty awesome. So that matchup, like you've mentioned, that's going to be the matchup of the final. So we'll look ahead to the finals. So we've got 2 finals: the championship final. We've got Hawke's Bay against Northland. So we'll just do a quick preview of that and get some predictions. Joey, how are you seeing that one?
Ooh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to go against Tasman, because they've been there a couple of years now, and to go up against a team who had it before they had it, right? Who want to recapture that glory, and I guess it's probably part of the reason why what's her name, Alama Yeremia, got a bit emotional when talking in the interview after the game. And the fact that they've made the final. I think he got emotional about the fact that they've clawed their way back to a final for the premiership. So I think it'll be a nice game, but my mind usually says one thing and the heart says another, but both are saying Auckland.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Auckland. I pick Auckland to pull out a big one, but it's going to be 12 and under to Auckland is my tip.
Nice. Now, Roger, if you remember at the start of the season, you picked Tasman to actually win the NPC.
So he did.
I know Joey went Auckland, so it was us 3 on at that time. Yeah, and I had the deciding vote, and I actually backed you, and now I'm regretting it, but we'll go with that. So talk us through Tasman's chances, mate. What do you think's going to happen in the final?
I reckon Tasman will still put up a decent fight, but being at Eden Park, Auckland, home ground advantage, and also just reading they've opened the gates to supporters for free.
Yes.
What a stitch up. And,
yes, good point.
And so they're gonna have a close to decent sized crowd there to support the men in the blue and white hoops. So that could be the winning ingredient there.
Do you know what? I'm going to the game. I live in Hamilton, but I'm going to the game.
Yeah, man. I mean, if it was a Galahad Shield final and ponies were playing, I'd definitely be seeing Joey there anyway.
Oh, come on. I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad, even though I've done it the last few times.
Yeah, so I think that might be the factor that might draw, get Auckland across the field, across the line is just having a decent sized crowd. So they're reckoning about 20,000 fans will show up to watch the final, and and he wants. This is from Alama Yeremia wanting to give the locals something to cheer about after such a difficult year that has been on so many different levels for a lot of people. So what a nice gesture from Auckland Rugby, from Alama Yeremia and co. and I think that's just repaying the fans for the faith that they've had. And this is me just, with no hat on. Obviously, Counties Manukau just down the road, missing out on any finals football, but I'm happy for the boys in Auckland. I'm wanting Rayasi to have a good sort of last sort of bit at super claim, but who knows? Obviously, he's tied up for the Hurricanes. Could be the last sort of chance for any of these players who haven't secured any Super Rugby contracts to stake their claim. Choate, I'm hoping for Choate and Nico Jones, our boys from Waitemata,
Yes,
to
Nico Jones,
to really put their best foot forward and get some super contracts. But who knows? But yeah, as my initial prediction was for Tasman, but pulling out the heartstrings, I'll go with Auckland to win.
What?
Oh,
Auckland
nice.
to win the Super Rugby?
No, Auckland to take this because of the home advantage, but I won't be too fussed if my prediction is correct in the end anyway. But it should be a stellar of a game. Good afternoon. Hopefully, it's good running football for the teams, and it should be a good afternoon.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree with all that. We talked about in the semi-final reviews how good Hawke's Bay were, and they opened up the gates, and I felt that home ground advantage of all those fans coming in for free to support them really worked in their favour. So I'm hoping for a similar again here with Auckland. So we will be there as well, me and my partner and our kids, especially now it's free. We'll definitely be going there to support Auckland. So
Do you have Auckland
I think it's
jerseys?
going to be a good game, and I'm looking at that same matchup that you've got there, Rayasi and final.
Do you actually have Auckland jersey, or are you just a Blues? You just Blues, eh? You're not really a provincial.
I've got an Auckland jersey. It's just I do, but it's tight.
I've got an Auckland jersey.
I've got one, but it's really tight, so I don't know if I can fit it anymore.
Was that the Export Gold Nike Blues Auckland jersey that they used to have back in the late 90s?
Export Gold.
An Export Gold.
Yeah.
I've got the poster right here.
Oh my God.
1997.
Is that when because I think what's the name? Andrew Va'a was in that team. And even Simone Tamoipeau's older brother, Devita. I think he's in the back. I think he's in the back of that. He's in the back.
James Kerr. James Kerr was even in there.
Wow, James Kerr.
Oh, wow, that's going back, eh?
Yes. Didn't he go on to break our heart?
They changed the subject, Rog.
Anyway.
James Kerr.
Yeah. Last I heard he was running around.
Yeah, nice trip.
He's a good player.
Oh, he's still running around. Good on him. Yeah.
At least a year or two ago, he was running around for Poverty Bay.
Wow, amazing. But I don't. In terms of older players playing provincial rugby, I don't think you can get any better than the man himself, Peachy, played for King Country.
Who?
Peachy from the Cronulla Sharks. David Peachy.
Oh, what?
He played for King Country.
Oh,
a few seasons ago. Look him up.
Mate,
Google it. It's one of the most amazing swan songs, if you like.
Yeah.
David Peachy.
Oh, good on him. You know, when it's in your blood, eh? Like some of these older players who they just play for the love of the game. So good on them. And good to see some of these older players reinvested back into the New Zealand rugby as well. So that's good. We're all on the same page with Auckland winning it, but we'll have a quick look at the other final, which was Hawke's Bay playing Northland, and the winner will be promoted to the Premiership division. So, Joey, mate, how are you seeing that one, Hawke's Bay and Northland?
Wow.
Oh, look, my mind says after the wonderful last match that Hawke's Bay had, defeating Taranaki the way they did, actually, the bookies at TAB already had them kind of winning it by that kind of a margin anyway. So, with them as favourites. Northland, however, they've really gone through struggle streak to get to the final. And I think, where's the game being played?
It's in Hawke's Bay. I think they got the home ground advantage for finishing higher up the table.
Oh, that's a tough one. No one expected Northland to be there. Look,
I beg to differ of Northland.
Yeah.
After they just lost to Auckland, you know, I saw some spirit and some fight in their old Taniwha. I thought they were going to be, you know, because they could have won that match and just sort of pipped at the post there by Auckland. And so they showed some real strength of character to be able to, you know, underdog, the small brother, little brother of the Blues franchise there with Harbour. And for them to do that to Auckland, who are predominantly all contracted professional, semi-professional players, I think they're deserving of their spot. So to topple Otago in the semi-final, no surprises for me. And so they should do well. And I'm hoping that they can actually go on to be promoted.
No, that's not a bad call. I think it's going to come down to which of the two teams, Hawke's Bay or Northland, shows up with an attitude of we haven't won this yet. They both had really good wins. Northland, you know, they beat Otago, which traditionally Otago always win that game. They, you know, always. For as long as I've known NPC rugby, I don't think I've ever known Northland to beat Otago. But Hawke's Bay to do Taranaki the way they did, you've got to commend them. But at the same time, I'm with you on that, Rog. And I think the Taniwha will, you know, they always have supporters who follow them around the country, always. And I think it'll be nice. It'll be nice for Northland to take this one back. And I think if Hawke's Bay show up complacent, and I think they have the potential to because of that great big win that they had against Taranaki. So they're in danger zone at the moment, more than Northland are beating Otago. So with that, my prediction is going to go for Northland as well.
I like it.
I didn't realise Tom Robertson was back.
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
So he played in that game down at Forsyth. So you got Tom Robertson, Sam Knox. So you got some, you know, some Blues players in there. And obviously Tom Robertson being missing out due to injury. So good way to finish the year for him and to get back into the swing of things next year. But Rene Ranger as well. So Josh,
is he playing? Is Rene Ranger playing?
Yeah.
I know Matty Wright got binned. I'm not sure if he was sin binned or red carded. So I'm wondering if he'll get to play as well, because he's quite exciting.
I tell you what, if Auckland win and then Northland win and then two Blues teams win the trophy, then the Blues will basically go undefeated next year. I'm telling you that. We will just kill everyone. We'll two titles this year.
Bookmark.
I mean, the Blues will kill everyone.
Again, it's just another loose prediction on Stacey's part for his beloved Blues. I get it, but you know, it's unfounded.
I think it was John Hart or one of those famous coaches from back in the day who once said, and this is kind of partly agreeing with what Stacey's saying, but I think there's a missing part to what Stacey's saying, and I think it was John Hart or Alex Wiley or one of those coaches, one of those super coaches. They said when Ponsonby rugby's strong, Auckland rugby's strong, and when Auckland rugby's strong, the Blues rugby's strong, and when Blues rugby's strong, the All Blacks are strong. So I can't fault them on that. I just can't. I can't fault them.
It's a reflection. So the All Blacks is a reflection of the Blues franchise this year, is it? Oh yeah, I get it.
But the Blues didn't win. The Blues didn't win the makeshift competition.
You're just saying that the Auckland franchise, the Blues, Auckland rugby, propping up New Zealand rugby, the All Blacks.
But can everyone? So that theory's out.
Nice. It looks
Mister.
like we're all on a similar page here, boys. I think we've got Auckland to win. I actually think Hawke's Bay, unfortunately, I think Northern will put up a better fight than Taranaki put up last week. But Hawke's Bay, they've been outstanding. But I wouldn't be upset if we got the Blues double. The Blues double, I'm going to call it. Yeah, boys. But yeah, some good thoughts here. And just if you're in the Auckland region, like the boys touched on earlier, and you can make it to Eden Park, you'll be privy to some outstanding, entertaining footy, all for free. So you make your way down there on Saturday night. But boys, yeah, that was quite a comprehensive Mitre 10 chat there. But we'll look forward to the All Blacks, the international game. A couple of interesting things involving the All Blacks. Firstly, I will look at Sam Cane's quote from last week, and then after that, we'll do a All Blacks Argentina preview. We'll start with the captain, Captain Cane. He was asked about some criticism from the fan base around the All Blacks' poor performances, and just some questions around his captaincy and the coaching staff and that sort of stuff. And his reply was this. This is a quote. He said, "We've got some amazing fans, but we've also got some pretty brutal ones. With that, you've just got to remind yourself, hey, they may like to think they know a lot about the game of rugby. In reality, they don't really. They may know the game from what they see in the 80 minutes, but they don't see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes." So, Rog, mate, I'll come to you, mate. I know you're a big fan of Captain Cane. What did you make of those comments?
I think it's just a bit of maybe a little bit of pressure coming onto the captain. His first tenure as captain hasn't got off to the smoothest of starts, with a draw to Australia, a loss to Australia, and now a loss to Argentina. But I think it's a whole lot of a raft of things, I believe, with the year that has been. And at the end of the day, he's only human. He's going to have some moments where he's reflecting on and he's going to say stuff just like we all do. The same way that we are able to express our opinions and negate those sort of airwaves with people that listen to us or even don't listen to us, but it's just our opinions, and sometimes it can be said out of frustration, sometimes it can be just said candidly at the same time. So I think a lot of people who are putting a lot of light on his comments, it's probably just that. The media jumped on it. How can Cane say this about the fans? There's been comments that we've seen that people would say, like, even if you haven't played in the environment or played at international level, some people are claiming to say that, some fans have a real good knowledge of rugby. You don't have to be in the All Blacks environment to know rugby. So I think that's what they're getting at. Yeah, it's a bit of a sore point that it could come across in saying that spectators don't understand the pressures that go on with being international rugby players, let alone being All Blacks. But at the same time, I think it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek, but said at a low point in his captaincy tenure. So I think it's something that is forgiving. I mean, we know that in the past there have been players who have had low points, Richie McCaw, but from those low points, from the disappointment of 2007, it birthed probably the spirit to develop and to be better equipped for what came in 2011, 2015. And who knows with what our current crop of All Blacks are experiencing now. Hopefully this is just a chapter in their rugby careers, in their All Black careers, to bigger and better things. And it's just a little taste as well of what a lot of our All Black foes experience year in, year out. So, obviously we want our teams to be successful. This is a yearly occurrence for our poor Manu Samoa, and it's a roller coaster ride even with them. But you expect them to do well. You expect them to succeed. You expect them to win against against teams like Romania, teams like Georgia. But every now and then we get it wrong. We drop the ball, and but we still support our team. So I think the public will still support the All Blacks, but I think there's a bit of a sore point in terms of a captain expressing himself the way he did. If Richie McCaw was to ever express his true feelings, he probably never did, maybe to closer friends and in closer circles, but just because this one comment has gone viral over the media, then people are jumping on and questioning his character, questioning his medal. But I think we'll be okay. The All Blacks will live to fight another day. Not the greatest start, not only for him, and then not only for Foster. But I think it all comes back to a lot of raft of things that's happened in the week with Keith Quinn's comments as well. The harden up sort of kind of what's happened to the manly men, of the world. What's all this emotion? What's all this comment? It's the environment that we live in. Social media can snap up on something real quick, and obviously his comments has obviously struck a chord with a lot of the fans, and so they're going to react accordingly. But at the same time, he can't defend himself because, obviously he's going to be taken out of context, or people are just going to take him literally from what he means. But I think he still believes, and they want the fans to support the All Blacks. We get that. But then that's where we border on, okay, what we say towards the teams, towards the players, is then it brings in a whole different element of the mental health. And we know the Akira Ioane's story. We know, however, other players, professional players, the damaging effect of what comments that spectators, keyboard warriors have about them. Yet they can't defend themselves. They just kick it to the curb or just sweep it under the carpet. But in their own way, they have to support each other. And I think it's just a comment that's just come out, and I think it's just shows the human side. Just as much as we see the Mario Ledesma show emotion, I totally accept that. Obviously, with Keith Quinn's comments, I don't want to go down the road of disagreeing with a legendary broadcaster as Keith Quinn. Yeah, but he's of a different era, different mindset, and I believe that there's a time and place for that, to be the hard person. But at the same time, we're in a different age now where we have to understand and respect people's mental wellness as well. So Mario Ledesma came out. That's the way that Argentinians are. So who's us? Who are we to say as Kiwis that Argentinians or South Americans should behave the same way that we are? So the way that they show emotion, not necessarily a Kiwi thing, but again, times have changed and people are more accepting of it. So yeah, but Keith Quinn's still a legend.
Yeah, nice, Rod. Some real good thoughts there. I agree a lot with what you had to say. What about you, Joy? What did you make of Sam Kane's comments there?
I thought, even though I didn't agree with his comments, I thought he, as the captain of our national team, I thought, just like what Ian Foster said in an interview today or yesterday, he said the captain is going to make comments and he's going to state these comments from what he thinks. And he's going to say what he thinks, basically. Something along those lines. He's going to say what he thinks. And that's fine. He has a right to. But do people like me agree with his comments? Not really. And he knows that. I think Sam knows that people won't agree with what he said, but we are pretty hard on our role models, our key figures in these key teams that we follow as a nation, and we're going to be critical in terms of how they conduct themselves and what they say and what comes out of their mouths. I think if you think back to the time when he said it, emotions were pretty high. Emotions were pretty high, and I understand where he's coming from in terms of the feeling, but I don't agree with what he said at all. Maybe the context in which he meant it was different. It wasn't intended the way we took it as an audience, but that's something he needs to work on in terms of how he articulates his message. I'm not sure, but I still support him as our captain, 100%. And whilst Foster is in the job as our coach, I still support him 100%, right? So, and it was, I don't know if the process was a process that we would agree with in terms of how the likes of Foster were selected, but that's another podcast for another time, I think. And, you know, I think when Sam Cane's on, he's absolutely on. And I think I really wish he would wear headgear, that's all. Because that's the only thing that I think, you know, that the HIAs or, you know, concussions, I think that's the only thing that will, when you think of things like legacy and when he looks back on his career, I think that's the only thing that will mar him. Because his good work on the field whilst he's an All Black in that jersey, he'll never give less than, you know, 100%. And you can see that if you watch him close enough. Off the ball stuff, he's just top notch. You know, Richie, you saw him on the ball all the time, but off the ball, that's where this guy, Sam Cane, really comes into his own. He's the GOAT off the ball, I think, because I can't compare him to anyone else that I've seen off the ball, other than maybe the likes of Jerome Kino. But Jerome Kino was always seen with the ball in hand and always seen on the ball. Off the ball type stuff, the grunt work, the traditional grunt worker, the hard grafter. When you think of hard graft, you think of Sam Cane. And unfortunately, a lot of New Zealand public right now in this day and age, they don't appreciate that. I do, because, you know, old school, we appreciate that. We always appreciated hard grafters, whether they were flashy or not. So I'm always going to support Sam Cane whilst he's in the I guess the leader role, and I really hope he can play and not get knocked out as much as he does moving forward.
Let me put it to you this way, Joey and Stace, is that, you know, back in 2007 when we were trying to win against the French in that semi-final in the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
Although Richie McCaw never came out with it, do you think he was deserving of all the comments and all the opinions that came his way? Is when you're watching that moment, why didn't they just slow it down? Why didn't they just play it? You know, all the couch potatoes, all the spectators watching, all the referees and all the coaches from back home watching that game, you know, things they could have done better, things they should have. You know, we're all questioning his captaincy. We're questioning, you know, why didn't he slow play down? Why didn't they just control the ball and then win that game? You know, why didn't they go for the drop goal? You know, I think the same way, it's a similar scenario, but just, you know, it's just been, it's just come out differently. You know, obviously Sam Cane's verbalised it. It was a question of Richie McCaw's leadership back then as well. And also of Graham Henry. You know, was he fit enough to be coach of the All Blacks? And they renewed his contract. They gave him another chance. They gave Richie McCaw obviously another chance. We know that the rest is history and how they developed from those moments, from, you know, the hardest. And even in recent weeks, Graham Henry said if it wasn't for 2011, that 1-point win over France, Graham Henry wouldn't be getting the notoriety that he does now.
Yeah.
You know, Beaver wouldn't get anything close to what he would be remembered as, the guy that lost us the test in Hong Kong. That's now behind us. He's got a film after him that's been, you know, made of the moments and the feats that he achieved in the 2011 World Cup. And it's those defining moments. You know, do we define them by when they're down in the dungeons, when they're low and they're out? You know, do we count them out then, or do we give them that second chance? Do we continue to believe them? And I think the New Zealand public will still continue to believe in Sam Cane. They'll still continue to believe in the All Blacks, despite the All Blacks and the captain coming out and saying such things, you know. And I think it just shows that they're just human. And just like Richie McCaw maybe making the wrong decisions to get his team together to win that game against France, and other captains that have gone before him who never won a World Cup, you know, those decisions won't mar the All Blacks' careers, but obviously it will have a point to play in how we remember them. But I believe that they will be better people for it. And I think, it's just, it comes out differently. And obviously Richie McCaw wasn't wasn't a person to go onto social media or to say those things. He wasn't about verbalizing his frustrations, but to continually get the backing. And I think that's what we liked about Richie Makua as well. He was he was man of steel, and he tried to fix things internally and keep them internally. Obviously, you know, we're not going to try and control and have Sam Cane be a captain like. You know, he's going to be his own flavour. He's going to do his own thing, just like any other captain is. So I think we just have to be persistent and just be a bit more forgiving in terms of what our players say. It's just normal. Just like sometimes I try and tell Simon and Tana to keep their comments to themselves, but you know I can't. It's out of my hands.
Yeah, I like that analogy, because in that analogy, Makua, he could have said what's similar to Sam Cane, but he held his tongue. He had more temperament. And even though if he had said to those couch potatoes who questioned him, you don't know the game, similar to what Sam Cane is saying now, and even though they could be correct, you don't say those things publicly, even if you believe those things. I'm pretty sure in Richie McCaw's head, he's probably thinking, you have no idea what you're talking about. You weren't out there on the field. You don't know what we've practiced. You don't know this. You don't know that. But the ability to sort of bite your lip and not speak out and have sort of, I don't know, thicker skin, or for lack of a better word, and not bite on those types of things, I think that sort of temperament is needed to be All Black captain. It sort of, to me, it sort of looked like some of the social media comments and all the rest of it had gotten to him a little bit, the fact that he sort of bit on that and came out with that. And even though I think he's right, because, man, I've heard heaps of guys, you go on the Facebook page of the All Blacks and all the rest of it, and you'll see some of the most ridiculous comments on there that I've heard. And I'm thinking, shucks, some of these guys don't know what they're talking about. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert by any stretch of the imagination, especially not compared to what Sam Cane knows. He's forgotten more than I've ever known. And he's probably looking at some of these guys like, you don't know what you're talking about. But even if he's right, I don't know if he's right to say it publicly. He should just keep that opinion to himself, you know, like McCaw did, like Reed would do, and all the rest of it. In some ways, you want the captain to speak out, but
you just need to ask a Warriors fan. You just need to ask a Warriors fan. Oh, sorry, Stace, you are a Warriors fan. You know, the frustrations that you guys have been out since 1995, you know? So it's just, you know, that's kind of frustration, but you don't hear the captains come out, I suppose, isn't it?
Listen to this.
When you see the end product, when you see what comes out on the Saturdays or on the field, and the hard work that's been done behind the scenes, you know, by professional rugby players and professional athletes, it's, you know, they still go to an Olympics and don't even medal, you know, come last, don't even make the finals, but they'll forever be remembered as an Olympian. And so that's an achievement in itself. So,
but just on that, I really like, just on that, I really like what you had to say, Joy, how he's one of the best off the ball. So he does so much work that he doesn't get a lot of credit for, and that's where fans who don't know what they're talking about are sort of watching the game and just looking at where the ball is being passed to and not seeing all the great stuff he does. So he does a lot of important work that he doesn't get a lot of credit for. And it's not until he's not there, like that semi-final last year, that you realise, shit, this guy's a crucial part of what we do. So I was happy that he got the captaincy. And I think if I was in his shoes, and you think to yourself, there was the criticism when he was with the Chiefs, is he up to it? Should he be in the All Blacks, let alone be the captain? And you sort of think to yourself, if I play the house down and I play really, really good, that should silence the critics. And I think in the 5 games we played in this year, the 5 tests for the All Blacks, he'd be in the top 1 or 2 players that we've had this season, just in terms of being consistently good. And if he's still getting criticised, then it's sort of like, well, he's probably frustrated to the point where, come on, man, you criticised me when I was playing bad, fair enough, but I've been playing bloody good. Come on.
Sometimes it's just based on how many tries someone scores, isn't it? The wingers are always going to get the tap on the shoulder. Go, oh man, awesome game, but you know, if you don't score a try, then you didn't play good.
That's right. So true.
Well, rugby's like the ultimate team game like that. So when Caleb Clark's ripping up, that's because, you know, the forwards have done their job. The loose forwards have won the ball quickly. The forwards are winning the collisions and blowing over. The midfield backs and are passing it and giving them good quality ball. So all that has to work. And if there's sort of one weak link, then it doesn't work, and that's where Sam Cane, what he does is really important. But you guys want to say any more on this before we look at the All Blacks Argentina?
No.
Or I'll ask this one question: does anyone think that the captaincy should be changed?
Negative.
Not this late in the game. I think the New Zealand Rugby, including obviously the coaching staff, have made their selections and they need to stick with it. They made a decision. They need to commit to it 100%, back it all the way through thick and thin, and then whatever results at the end of the season lead to their dismissal, then so be it.
Yep.
Oh.
Well said. Well said. I agree with all that. Yeah, live and die by your results. But
You're hoping for a certain outcome, ain't you?
No, I mean,
I'm
I'm
hoping
all
for
for
new
giving a
coaching.
chance.
I'd keep going, but new coaching. Yeah.
I'm all for giving a chance.
New coach, same captain.
Yeah.
That's my outcome.
Dave Rooney's unavailable, man. Dave Rooney's unavailable.
Hey, we talked about this last week. Gatlin will be finishing up with the Lions at the same time that Foster's contract finishes up. So I would be doing the switcheroo.
How about Bryn Gatlin coming to the Chiefs? What a signing. Welcome home, son. Welcome home.
I'll be seeing him at my local cafe up the road.
There you go.
Oh, nice. Nice. Right, boys. We'll look at the actual game itself. So, the Tri Nations is basically up for grabs after that draw on the weekend. So I think, 15 all that was, and now all three teams are locked on 6 points. So the All Blacks can still theoretically win the Tri Nations with a good performance. So we'll have a look at this upcoming game. So the All Blacks are playing Argentina. Joey, mate, I'll come to you, mate. What are your thoughts on the game, and what about selections? I know we've had a brief talk about it last week, but is there anyone you really want to see in there? You know, any changes or anything you were looking at for the All Blacks to improve?
That's a good question, actually. Just judging on the last game and where I thought the gaps were, I think a little bit more grunt in the forwards, maybe, by the addition of maybe one or two key players. Unfortunately, in the last game, number 6 and number 8 both didn't have the greatest games. So there was Adi Salver and Frizzell.
Yep.
And they didn't do themselves any favours, but I think Adi deserves to have at least one shit game in his career. He goes hard no matter what. And whenever he's got the ball in hand, he won't stop at the first player, or at least he'll try not to. I think in this next game, hopefully they've done their homework from the last game, and have learned where the gaps were in their own individual games. Hopefully the likes of Artie and Frizzell and whoever else didn't play well. I really hope they've actually analysed their games fully and have made or are making, the amendments in their game to do something better so that they're better prepared for this next one. Because I don't think they actually were expecting to lose. I don't think they ever expect to lose, but especially against a team that they've never lost to before for the last 30 years, is it? So I think the back combinations I would like to see different. I'd like to see either Goodhue moved to his proper position, or someone else start in his place. I don't know, but I don't know if that's going to be the answer. But I do think something needs to happen in that midfield combination, whether that be a replacement of one of the two or both of them, or someone else injected in there. I do see from the last game that some firepower needs to be put into that back line. A straight ball runner who draws players and can free up his hands, but not just a battering ram, Like a Sonny Bill would be perfect, but we don't have SPW anymore. So, yeah, that's my take anyway from the last game.
Yep. What about you, Rog? How are you seeing this game coming up?
Well, they didn't make any changes other than halfback in that in the Australian test. So with if they stick to, obviously Ledesma and Czech are pretty happy with the squad, and for them to get a win and a draw out of it, and to come close to taking the Australians on the weekend, I think it would be no surprise if they stick to the same 23, bar the halfback who was called in, Gonzalo Bertino. So, and he had a decent game as well. So
Yeah, he's good.
Sanchez is massive. Obviously, he scored all 25 points against the All Blacks. That's the highest points from a Puma versus the All Blacks as well. So yeah,
Wow.
I think for him,
Even higher than Dominguez or Contepomi. Far out.
higher than
Yeah,
Contepomi.
Contepomi, yeah.
There's most points, and because I think it was the highest score against the All Blacks, and then the most points by an individual as well. So, and I think he's almost. I don't think he's the highest Argentinian point scorer, international point scorer, but he's high up on the list. But 82nd test against the Wallabies, this is 83rd test. So who knows? Sanchez could well and truly make the next World Cup and clock up 100. So he's of legendary status in Argentina. But I like the look of Pablo Mitre, the captain. Real steely performance in both games. And the niggle, and I think the niggle, Shannon Frizzell getting involved in a couple of incidents, took him off his game, and it really, enhanced the passion from the Pumas. And because they weren't going to take any of it, they don't care if you're an All Black, don't care who you are. We're going to front up. We're here to play. Don't think that we're going to make it easy. Don't think you're just going to run over us. And their defense, I think the defense is what. Obviously, you guys spoke about it last week, and just the way they shut down, they were able to shut down the All Blacks. They weren't able to get him to go forward. The likes of Adi Savia, even though he still had a good game, trying to truck the ball forward, but it was sort of reminded me of the game against England in the semi-final. They just weren't able to get over that game line despite all the effort and the intent to do so. But Pablo Matera and Marcos Crema were massive for me. Marcus Crema, who suffered a bit of a head knock against the Wallabies on the weekend, but hopefully he's all good to go. So he's a real good number 7, massive work rate as well, and just able to good power from him, complementing his captain as well. Massive tackles as well, but he gets better and better as the game wears on. So I think there'll be good games from him and Sanchez, but obviously, Pablo Matera is not going to take a backward step to anybody. And I think the comment that he made against with the referee in relation to the disrespect from Frizzell, that really just kicked off things from there. And I think the All Blacks, just if they get rattled like that again, I think they'll be better prepared. I know, and they'll want to try and rectify what went wrong last week against the Pumas, and obviously the Pumas are trying to go 3 in a row. They haven't done that for a long time, so Pumas go undefeated 3 in a row. Oh no, sorry, they were trying to get 3 in a row wins against the Wallabies, but they could still do so, to get 4 good results in 4 weeks, and that could probably be the Tri Nations title for them. So it's been a good campaign for Ledesma, and you could just see it in his voice as well. He said that for him to explain what it meant for him to win against the All Blacks, he wouldn't be able to speak if he was to explain that. You could see raw emotion, and for comments of like that to be said, and obviously that was a reaction from Keith Quinn in relation to that, as well as all the other emotion that was coming up from rugby players. But I think there's a time and place for it, and we're so used to it. The French are like that. The Argentinians are like that. So we can't question the way that they react and show emotion to as grown men. That's to be expected. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Good thoughts there on Argentina. Yeah, we don't normally focus on them enough, but they deserve a lot of credit. So I like what you had to say there, Rog. It'll be interesting to see if they can back it up, because the draw that they've got has been pretty rough. They're going to end up with 4 hard tests in a row. So this is going to be their third one in a row. And they haven't, before these tests, they wouldn't have played for, or they said something ridiculous, over a year. The 2019
days.
World Cup.
402
Yeah.
days.
So to then say, oh, you don't play for 402 days, then play 4 tests in a row against 2, you know, elite tier 1 nations away from home after being in quarantine and all that, they're putting up a pretty solid performance. And, you know, it's going to be up to the All Blacks to really try to step up to meet the Argentinians where they're at. So it's interesting you talked about Frizzell, because I also thought that he was poor. But when you compare him to Mitre, who I think he's probably the best 6 in the world, you know, it's pretty hard for Frizzell to try to compete against those guys. But you're right, he showed a lot of inexperience. He got caught in the niggle. I'm not sure if that should cost him his spot. But one thing, we talked about this last week with Joey. One thing I'm hoping for is some just specialists being picked in their right positions. So I would actually bench Adi Savio. Still think of him as a 7 playing 8, and I'd start Hoskins Satutu in the 8 jersey just because he's a real 8. And also I would put Bodie back to 10, and I'd put Mwang on the bench, and I'd find a proper fullback. I'm with you also on Goodhue. I'm not sure if that he's a 12, but I would just say, hey, look, these are the best guys, and these are the best positions for these specialist players, and pick specialists as opposed to sort of mixing and matching, which Foster's been guilty of. Basically, in all 5 tests, he's just picked his best guys and try to fit them into spots. And I'm not sure that tactic's working. So I'd be looking at specialists to play specialist roles, just to try to combat the Argentinians that way. So Rog, mate, are you thinking Argentina? They've been really good, because I know you said a lot about them, but do you think they can back up? Because 3 tests, that, like we talked about the draw that they've got, I'm not sure that could take its toll on it just as much as the All Blacks, you know, renewed vigor to finish strongly.
Yeah, well, 3 undefeated tests in a row. They haven't done that for a long time. I can't remember the exact date, but where is it? I got it. Yeah. No.
Especially against, you know, these elite tier 1 nations. So they might have picked up a few here and there when they were playing against some of these other South American countries. But, you know, I think that toughness of the draw might end up getting them, particularly if they just stick with the same 15 and the same 23. So that halfback change which you talked about, that was an injury enforced change. Otherwise, we might have seen no changes. It's going to be pretty rough to try out the same team for weeks in a row.
On the trot since Rugby World Cup 2015. So that's where I think the last game, they're trying to probably, I think it might be this week, to try to do undefeated on the trot. But yeah, it escapes me at the moment. But again, Mitre had a massive game against the All Blacks. He had 11 tackles, 3 breakdowns, turnovers, and he won 3 lineups. But, you know, the urgency, the energy of the man, and the way that he led his country, and you know, be able to speak with and not to be undone by the referee, and, you know, to question the referee when he needed to question him, and to get some answers from him. So, and also just to be able to lead his team. And I think if he continues to do that way, win or lose, I think the South Americans won't let themselves down. But I really had some issue with the referee on the weekend against the Australian, and he was a Kiwi referee, Paul Williams. But yeah, just some of the calls. And I think even though it was all based on penalties, you know, Sanchez, I think it was Hodge, had 5 from 5. No, Sanchez 5 from 5. But then he missed a crucial one at the end for Hodge anyway. Missed the last one. Just similar to that first draw against the All Blacks. You know, that last draw, that last kick, they could have just taken the win. But I think I was frustrated because of the penalties that the referee was awarding both teams. You know, it was going back and forth. Like, he was questioning, he warned the Australians that there was too much. The next person was going to go to the bin, and then he said the same against the Argentinians. And then that was in the first half, and then the second half, first infringement off the ball in the ruck, not a clear release of the tackle player, and then that player was binned, and I think it was a prop. And he got binned for 10 minutes, and then again there was another penalty where it almost favoured the Australians, where Hooper comes in forearm to the head on the tight head prop, and then the referee's telling him easy, easy. When the prop was reacting to get rid of Hooper, he got him in a bit of a headlock, but sort of fending to the face, and then Argentina got penalised for that. But I believe the error was, the forearm to the head. That's direct contact to the head, trying to clear a ruck. He's not going to move him, but then the referee, whether he saw it or not, but he's telling the Argentinian prop not to react. So because of the reaction, he's penalised, but then the contact to the head hasn't been seen to. And then scrummaging. Scott Seal was penalised a couple of times, and those were crucial times because one of those resulted in a 3-point from Hodge kicking it. But it wasn't. I don't believe it was Scott Seal's side, and the referee was on the opposite side. It was the touch judge either calling it or the referee just assuming that it was Scott Seal. He kept on saying one going down. But from what I saw, the feet of the tight head prop for Argentina, their feet were going from under them. So he was laid out flat, with Scott Seal was still on his feet, but obviously he's not going to be able to hold him up if the whole scrum from the Argentinian side goes down. Two penalties there, and that affected Scott Seal's player ratings because of those penalties. But I believe that it was inconsistent. The Australians had a more dominant scrum, I believe, against Argentina, and Argentina are meant to be renowned for their scrummaging, but Australia were able to counter and had a good go at them. Taniela Tupou, Scott Seal to start, but then you had Alarator that came on as well. So later on in the piece, but I believe that they were hard done up. So I think they cancelled each other out, going back and forth for penalties when I believe the penalties shouldn't have gone. But again, just my opinion from what I saw, and so nullified to a 15-all draw. So I guess Australia wouldn't be happy with that. Argentina more happy.
Yeah.
So I think,
I didn't catch a lot of that game, to be fair, but I think you hit the nail on the head. When you're spending a lot of time talking about scrum penalties, it sounds like I didn't miss much. What about you, Joe? You may have anything? Oh, you carry on, Rich.
No, but in the 15th minute, there was a bit of excitement. Hunter Paisami. We know him as a hard-running second five, reminiscent of your Sam Tutupo or the early Ma'anonu and even Angani Loape. But what excited me about Hunter Paisami was that he put in a grubber kick. Obviously he's played with Jordan Petea before, and basically just reading that Petea was on the run, kicked through, clear, no one at home, almost secured the one and only try of the game, but for a foot on the line. So Hunter was able to put it through. Jordan Petea got to the ball, probably let it bounce one too many, but then by the time he put the ball down, his foot just touched the dead ball line. But it looked amazing just on the run of play, but just deemed out of bounds. But that was exciting, and that wasn't the only time that Hunter did that. Hunter was putting through some good stats, and I think I had him. So showcasing a lot of his kicking skill that we're not sort of used to. He had 32 run meters, and he was the most. He showed most tackles for the Wallabies. He had 8 tackles, so he was higher than Hooper. Hooper had an average performance, and 6 tackles and 4 carries, whereas Hunter had a lot more. But I think my man of the match was the young lock that plays for Australia, and that was Matt Phillip. Well, he's not young, but 26 years old.
Yeah.
High work rate. He was featuring heavily around the rucks and even in general play across the park. But then he was also standing out due to his high work rate. He had the most carries by the Wallabies with 14 and carried the ball twice in 3 phases, more than once. So and he was the primary lock option. So he's got a sort of a bright future. Obviously, he was their main line-out option, but they had Simmons as well in there as well. So experienced pack, but just not enough to get over the line for the Wallabies. But I think that's where New Zealand just can't get in those close quarters. They just got to try and play their own game and get over the game line. But if Argentina are coming full bore and trying to shut you down early like they did in their first game, then it's going to be a tough day at the office for the All Blacks to try and get some redemption. And get the result that obviously the All Black fans are wanting. But I'm thinking we can do it. But Argentina are not going to just be lying there dormant.
Yeah. Good thoughts there on the young Aussie team. Like that young midfield looks promising. Patayo and Paisami together, two young guys. You talked about Matt Phillip. He's a young lock coming through. Another young guy, and they've got Harry Wilson at number 8, it looks really promising. So I know Joey's earmarked big things out of Australia. Yeah.
He's young, yes.
So Joey's earmarked Australia for big things, and when you look at the young players coming through, which Dave Rennie's gone hard on the youthful guys, there's tremendous upside to that. So it's up to him to mould them to something in the next sort of 3 and a bit years, which, with Noah's coaching record, it looks possible. But Joey, mate, I'll come to you, mate. Have you got anything on that Australia-Argentina game, or just some other thoughts on the All Blacks-Argentina game this week?
Bit of both. So firstly, the Argentina-Australia game. Of what I did see in the game, there was a bit too much of the niggly stuff, and they got away with dirty little tricks against Australia that Australia were trying to do in our game with Australia. And Argentina got away with a little bit of it in our game against Argentina. And I see Argentina doing much of the same in this next match. And I think because they know it works. It worked with the likes of Frizzell and other players, but, if it's working, why change it, right? So I think much of the same will happen. Like, I think in the Argentina Wallabies game, the hooker, Mosa, he got his hair pulled by the captain, Mitre. And I don't know if he got penalised for that, but yeah, he got his hair pulled. So, even the captain isn't, free from all that rubbish. So I think it's part of the old traditional rugby games of old in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, maybe some 90s, but in 2020, everything is seen. Everything gets put on report. Everything gets seen by, every camera I think there's 6 cameras in each game, at least, right? The 4 on each corner, and then you have the 2 that are following the plays up and down. So, so you can't get away with it. You can't get away with much in today's game. So I think they will bring the niggle, and hopefully the All Blacks from the last game have learned their lesson in terms of
not all the players on the park too. We can't afford a red card. We can't afford a yellow card.
Exactly,
because Argentina's no easy beat anymore. They've evolved. They're all playing professionally. They're playing in Super. They've been exposed to this. They almost got away with winning with the Jaguares not long ago. So
they've been given every opportunity by World Rugby to do the best and enjoy the success that they do today, beating the All Blacks. And imagine if a Tier 2 team like, say, Samoa or Tonga or Fiji were given those same opportunities 10, 15 years ago, where Argentina did, entering Super Rugby and are now enjoying the fruits of not New Zealand Rugby's, World Rugby's labour.
There was that niggle.
There's another podcast
early on as well. Was the hooker from Australia, the one that you mentioned, the long hair.
Amosa,
yeah. So he got involved in a late tackle. The guy, I think it was the halfback or the winger that was running towards him, but then he looked towards the referee because the referee had blown it up, and then Painga still put in the shoulder and knocked him onto the ground. It reminded me of Mayweather Ortiz all over again, the cheap shot from the referee and just got a blind shot. So thought nothing of. But to the Argentinians' credit, like I said, man, they're not going to take it easy. They're not going to let any of their team be disrespected like that. Alemano, who's one of my picks in the Rocky Siliola Cup, he was just defending his players, and then there was a bit of a scuffle, and then Amos was rolling around like a little kid on the ground. So, and then they got the penalty reversed because it was a penalty for Australia, but then because of his action, and so those are all the niggles that changed the games. Those Scott Seal scrummage collecting, which I don't believe he was doing, and then these incidents and that's the difference between win, lose, draw, and then Australia, unlucky with the they could have still won it at the death. But Argentina be more than happy with a result like that they don't get every day. They had only had one draw against Australia previously, and they've been playing since 1983. So, and they've only won 6 times, I think, against Australia prior. So they're looking for that 7th, and they're not far away.
Mm. Yeah, I think you guys had some real good points, particularly about the niggle, because when we look at that All Blacks Argentina game that played before, Sanchez kicked 18 points in penalties. So if you get caught up in that sort of stuff and then your ill discipline lets you down, we know Sanchez is an elite goal kicker and he'll punish you. He punished the All Blacks,
Just happy to do
15
so.
points against the Wallabies. Yeah, they're happy to do it. They'll win the game in threes.
Yeah.
They almost pulled it off against Australia. And they'll win the game in threes and back the defense. And it's a pretty good tactic so far. I think they didn't concede a try against Australia, and I think they conceded 1 try to Caleb Clark against the All Blacks. So the defense is holding.
First test try for Caleb Clark,
Yeah.
But it's in a loss. So it was one of those bittersweet moments. But
yeah. But that's testament to the defence. They've only conceded 1 try in 2 tests against elite teams. So, that's their tactic. They'll sort of bait you into giving them 3 points, and then they'll back the defence to hold those little slim leads. I mean, and so far, so good. But, it's going to be an interesting game. And I think, like you said, Rog, the Tri Nations is quite open. So whoever wins this game will go a long way towards, possibly winning the title. So we'll definitely keep an eye out on that one, boys. But if we haven't got anything else on that, we'll move on. We're just about done. So we're looking at our TAB account. We'll get some tips from the boys. So we're in the positives so far, which is good. I think we're up $32 in our account from when we started, which is really good news. And we've also got that $10 on Tasman, which if that comes through, we'll be up even more. So the tips are
what are the odds on that?
$4.50. So put $10 on, that'll give us another $45. If Tasman can pull it up, but we're still winning. We're up $32 at the moment from when we started the season. So tips are looking so far so good. We might be able to get a bit more, but we'll get a tip from both of you. Roger, mate, have you got something for us for our account?
Yeah, I'm going All Blacks to take Argentina and right the wrong. But it's not going to be without a passionate fight from the Argentinians. It's going to be real steely performance, and I believe it's probably going to be a close encounter, but I think the All Blacks are going to come home. They're going to be coming home anyway.
Interesting to talk about the niggle way. We've talked about that.
They'll be coming home with a win.
I was just saying, it was interesting because we talked a bit about the niggle, so I'm wondering what the odds are for a yellow card or a red card or so on. I might have to check that. But yeah, okay, that's a good tip there. All Blacks to win. Have you got a tip for us there, Joey?
I do. If I'm a betting man, which I am, All Blacks 13 plus. And this prediction is based on history. It's based on history when the All Blacks have been not necessarily written off, but when they've come off the back of a loss against the same team, and it's usually Australia, they absolutely whack them the following match. So I'm going off the base of that, especially if you're taking into consideration what happened with Australia and the test match at Perth where Australia dicked us, and then we absolutely dicked them back at Eden Park. I think the same thing is going to happen here, and the All Blacks actually have a point to prove, not only for themselves, but on behalf of their coach who's under fire. So I think they want to pay him pay a little back to Foster, and get a good win under the belt for him and repay his faith in, them as selected players to take on that task.
When was the last time that the All Blacks lost 3 in a row? I'm trying to remember. I can think 94.
Well, Bledisloe.
Or just 3
98
in a row. Or 3 tests.
98, we lost 5 in a row.
What?
Was it 98?
South Africa, South Africa. Was South Africa were involved in that, eh?
Yeah, 98, we lost 5 in a row.
Remember
South Africa, Australia, I think was to England.
That's right.
But we lost 5 in a row in 98. That was the worst.
Yeah,
that's right. And Carlos was at 10 at that time, eh?
Was it
think so.
Tane
I hope not. I could have been. I can't remember.
Tane
Yeah,
Randall?
Tane Randall was the captain, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
Tane Randall was captain. Oh,
that was the
terrible.
that was when Cullen first made the move to centre as well. So I think there was a whole lot of bad things going on at that point.
Was it John Mitchell, the
don't wanna-
coach? Who was the coach then?
It's a horrible trip down memory lane.
It
Who was the coach then?
No, it wasn't
John Hart.
John Hart. That's right.
5 in a row. That's right. I remember
John
John
Hart was the
Hart.
coach.
I remember John Hart coming out and saying around that time, he would say, or was it before that? Anyway, at one time during his tenure as All Blacks coach, he said, in order to enjoy success, a team has to go through adversity. I remember the word adversity was one of his favorite words at the time. And recently, in
real
interviews,
coaching talk, it's real coach speak.
It's funny though, because recently in interviews that he's had, I can't remember which interview, but he absolutely contradicted that. so I just remember laughing, remember having a chuckle. Yeah. So John Hart, okay.
Yeah,
that explains a lot.
It was hard because back in John Hart, because he won the he took over '96 from Laurie Maines, and then he won that first Springbok tour that the All Blacks had ever won. '96 he was in charge of that team. Then '97 he went through undefeated. That was the first undefeated season. They had a draw with England in the final match of the year. That was one, and he was outstanding. And then '98 he just fell off a cliff. So hard times. Those are painful memories, but yeah, I'm liking these tips, boys. I'll jump on the NPC. So I'm with you guys. I think Auckland. This is a hard pick for me, but I'll go for Auckland. Auckland to beat Tasman. So hopefully we can win some more money.
It's not a bad
money for the account, boys, and then we can have a few beers at the end.
Not a bad hard pick at all.
Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm feeling it. All right, boys, we're just about done. We're just about to wrap up, so we'll get some final thoughts. Rog, mate, I'll come to you. Brother, have you got some final thoughts for us?
I'm just hoping everyone can just take it easy on our Superman, Sam Cane, over the next week or so. Obviously, he's got a bit of had a week or two just to rest up and re-energize for the task at hand. But I believe the All Blacks have probably going to learn a lot from this, win or lose against the Pumas. But I'm just hoping for an exciting match. And the Pumas have still got 2 more matches in this campaign. Anyway, so I think it'll go a long way to seeing who takes out the Tri-Nations this year. So it should be an exciting game. Looking forward to it. I'm happy for Argentina being at the top of their peaks of their powers and leading into hopefully next year being an uninterrupted international season. But at the same time, exciting young midfield there and the pairing of Petea and Baisami. A couple of young boys there for Australia, and who knows, could go a long way for Joey's pick for them to take out. But hopefully the Fijian team gets released soon, free of COVID, and can actually play some games. We were looking forward to the France-Fiji game, but it got cancelled. So, we'll see what the Autumn Nations Cup shapes up like this weekend.
Yep, nice thoughts there, mate. I agree with all of that. Joey, brother, you got some final thoughts for us?
Yes, I would like to echo the thoughts of our Chiefs Mana resident fan, in that we need to get behind our captain. Sure, he said some things that were pretty offside with a lot of people, but he has the right to say it, and we need to back him no matter what. Sure, have your little cry, your little criticism of him, your backlash or hateration, but get back on the horse in order for us to enjoy some success. We need to, I guess, back the team that's selected, and at the end of it all, they're the ones who are fronting, and they're the ones who are given the opportunity to front. So all the best to them. I think they will do a job on Argentina. in terms of our backlash. I think you only have to look at past results when All Blacks have been in similar positions. I don't know if that brings them the title if they beat Argentina this time around. But yeah, so All Blacks to win 13 plus. Just on the Australian prediction that I made to win the World Cup, I had a look on TAB. It is paying only $12. So yes, only $12. So I will put some money on it just to see if it comes to life. But
What's France paying? What's France paying?
That's not a bad prediction either, France. I don't know. I haven't checked. I only checked the Aussie one. But I'll check it again and see if it's gone a bit higher, given that last draw. See what the bookies think.
All three teams are on 6 points on the Tri Nations table.
They're
all on 6 points, but just due to
points difference. 26. Yeah.
New Zealand ahead of Argentina and Australia at the bottom. So yeah, these last two games are going to pretty much decide it. So even if All Blacks win this week, Argentina can still make up for it next week, but depends on how they win.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, looking forward to an All Blacks win. Looking forward to an Auckland win at Eden Park. I will be there. I will be there with a few mates and their families. Who else? What other games are on? What are the other? What's the other final? The other final is Northland and
Hawke's Bay.
And Hawke's Bay. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Northland, but I think they can do it. I think they've got the firepower to do it. I think what they need is a Hawke's Bay team that shows up complacent somewhat. And they have every reason to be complacent at the moment, because if you give a team like Taranaki a thrashing the way they did,
yep,
of course they're going to feel pretty high at the moment. But I don't know who their coach or their captain is, and whether or not they will bring them down to earth this week during training. But yeah, I think Northland will definitely be taking the game to them. It's the only way, and I think the Taniwha, as a region, Tai Tokiro, deserve it of some good news.
Yep.
Hawke's Bay have their wines.
Yep.
They have their wineries. They can always go and cry into their wineries.
So it could be all about Team Blue and Whites, eh? Is that including Argentina? Anyway.
Get out of here, mate.
It's definitely not including New South Wales, that's for sure.
Ooh.
Ooh. On that note,
still recovering from that pain of last week. Next best thing is the blue jersey that I bought through the airport in Fiji all those years back. 2011, coming back from 2011, hey, buy this jersey. He's like, oof. I bought this for $200.
Not to support every blue team possible except for the Auckland Blues.
The blue Fiji jersey. I'll buy that.
Nice.
Anyway. Yeah, I owe Tana a jersey.
That was a good trip, boys. I'll just say for some final thoughts. So well done to Auckland Rugby for putting the game on for free, like you mentioned earlier there, Joey. And also Hawke's Bay, they did the similar thing for the semis last week. 2020, that's been a tough year for everyone with COVID and everything. So the fact that the fans can enjoy, good quality matches and some good quality rugby without having to worry about the costs and stuff, that definitely goes a small way to help out. So, well done to those two teams. Just in closing, I want to thank all the listeners for joining us for another edition of the Counter-Ruck. We're available on the usual podcast platforms, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and also on YouTube for those that like to watch it. And so thanks for listening, and please provide your feedback for us, boys. Thanks for being part of the pod. So we've got Joey on, Rog on, thanks for joining us, and Cam's who was helping out with the fact-checking. Cheers, boys, and we're back again. Yep. Cheers, boys.